For those of you who don't know, I'm Carmen Gust. I am Coach Owen's wife. I just finished my second year of pharmacy school at Creighton University School of Pharmacy and Health Professions. So at the end, 2 more years, I'll be a doctor of pharmacy. So the focus, what I'm going to talk about today, is being a healthier coach. So now that we've all got done eating a somewhat healthy meal, so that's good. We're going in the right direction. We're going to talk about being a healthier coach. So the focal point of mine I'm going to kind of target is blood pressure. So I think it's a good thing to talk about because it's kind of an epidemic in our country. So we're going to start there. So first of all, what is blood pressure? An ideal blood pressure is 120/80 or less than that. And we probably are wondering, what do those numbers mean? So the top number is called your systolic blood pressure, and that's the pressure in your heart when it's contracting. So when you hear it beat, the heartbeat, that's the pressure. For 120, less than 120 is kind of where you want that to be. The next number, the bottom number, is the diastolic, and that is your pressure in between beats. So it's when your heart's relaxed. So kind of just very basic, telling you what those numbers actually mean when we go to the doctor. Everybody's gotten their blood pressure taken at some point or another. And so you've probably heard the word hypertension. It kind of sounds like, oh, maybe that might mean you're hyper. Nope, it doesn't. It actually means high blood pressure. So high blood pressure, hypertension, they're both the same thing. Anything greater than 140 or greater than 90, either number can be over that, is considered hypertension. You skipped a slide. Okay. All right, so these are the different ranges of blood pressure. Some of you may have gone to the doctor and they might tell you you're pre-hypertensive. Well, what does that mean? These are the different ranges. So if either your systolic number is in between 120 and 139, you're going to be pre-hypertensive, or if your diastolic number is between 80 and 89. Now, let's say you have a diastolic number that's 90, but your systolic is 120. They're going to go with whatever number's higher. So they're going to put you into what's considered stage 1 hypertension, so on and so forth. So you can kind of take a look at those ranges. So let's talk about hypertension statistics. Clearly, it's an epidemic in our country. 85.7 million people have hypertension. That's 34% of the country. So the scary thing about hypertension is it's not a specific symptom or sign that you might have that right away tells you that you have hypertension if you're not getting your blood pressure taken. So you could be walking around feeling perfectly fine and have hypertension. So what I suggest is that everyone, I don't care how old you are, how healthy you are, get your blood pressure taken regularly. Whether it's buying a blood pressure monitor or going to your local Walgreens and just sticking your arm in the cuff and get it taken, I would do that as regularly as you can just to kind of keep a gauge on it. So another thing is that if you look at some of these staggering statistics, heart disease is the #1 cause of death in the US. #1 cause. We hear about all these other scary things that people can pass away from. Heart disease, #1. So the great thing about if you do have hypertension, we have awesome drugs that really do a good job of controlling people's blood pressure. So that's why it's great to know right away if you do have hypertension. Your doctor will let you know if it's consistently high, they're going to put you on a medication. Once that happens, you want to consistently take your medication. Every day that you go without taking your blood pressure medication or not going to the doctor when you have high blood pressure and getting on medication is another day that your heart is working twice as hard to pump that blood through your body. And this just takes life off your heart. So get in to see your doctor, get your blood pressure taken. If they prescribe medications, please, please, please take them regularly. And you want to try to take them at the same time every day. So when we do have controlled hypertension, so whether this is on a medication, so you're taking your blood pressure regularly, you had high blood pressure, you're on a med, and now it's controlled, okay? So you're at 120 or 80, over 80 or below. What this does is, these are all the statistics we have here of what we can how we can benefit from just taking our medication or doing lifestyle modifications, whether that's increasing your exercise or controlling your diet or reducing your stress. We have a 44% reduction in strokes, a 25% reduction in heart attacks, and a 50% reduction in heart failure. So just by taking that medication regularly or controlling your lifestyle modifications, we can, obviously severely reduce hypertension and some of the bad side effects that come with it. So what I'm going to kind of focus on is nutrition is going to be the first thing that I focus on as far as a lifestyle modification. So obviously we all know what we put in our body is going to affect us, so best way to do that, eat right, okay? So we'll get into the details of that. The next thing we're going to talk about is activity. Obviously how to work, regular activity into your day. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is controlling stress, and I'm going to specifically focus on yoga for briefly give an overview of that and how that can help you. So what I kind of want to say here is that probably not just doing one of these things is going to severely reduce your blood pressure. It's the cumulative effect of, kind of putting all of these things into your daily routine. Now, I know I don't like to hear you're gonna do this diet super strict. Nobody's gonna stick to that. So it's kind of like taking bits and pieces of what I say today, working it into your lifestyle, slowly building into certain realms, like if you want to change your diet, adding fruits and just kind of be more conscious of adding fruits and vegetables, things like that, adding more activity. So kind of slowly working it into what works for you for your lifestyle. So like I said, the cumulative effect of all these things is what will help reduce your blood pressure. And the great thing about this is if you really get great at doing these, you could either A, never have hypertension, or B, you can lower the amount of medication that you're on just by modifying some of your lifestyle modifications. So we'll go into the first point we have here is nutrition. So they don't know physiologically kind of the mechanism with this yet, but we do know that when you have an excess amount of sodium in your diet, you're going to increase your blood pressure. So what they do sometimes if you go to the doctor, they will introduce something called a DASH diet, and that's a low sodium diet. And they say that when you kind of introduce that into your diet, reducing your sodium, this will really help reduce your blood pressure about 8 to 10 millimeters of mercury. So about 8 to 10 points of that 120/90 can go down just by your diet alone, just by reducing sodium. So we'll kind of talk about here. So let's look at a typical nutrition fact label on any food. Hopefully some of you have looked at these before. The first thing I kind of want to point out is that some people tend to skip the serving size and just go straight to this. If you didn't look at the top and you said, oh, well, if I eat this whole container, I only have 140 milligrams of sodium. That's not that bad. But really, we got to go back up to the top. And the serving size is 1 cup. How many are in this container? 4. So you got to multiply that by 4 to get how many milligrams of sodium you're actually intaking just from that one container. Another thing you want to be conscious of outside of sodium are saturated fat is a big one. So this is a good product because it doesn't have any. You want to keep that very minimal in your diet because that's very bad for your heart as well. And then another thing, we won't focus on too much today, but do look at how much sugar is in things. If you're going to a store, you're comparing 2 different products, pick the one that has less sodium, pick the one that has less sugar in it, pick the one that has more dietary fiber in it, okay? So the American Heart Association recommends that we get 1,500 milligrams of sodium or less per day. You would be shocked how fast you can reach that number. Most Americans, I kind of probably think this is a conservative number, but the statistic is that we get about 3,500 milligrams of sodium a day, so way higher than we're supposed to, okay? So, definitely be conscious of that. I don't think it's something that we really focus on in our society because people are very fat conscious and trying to be skinny and focusing on that, where really sodium isn't going to really affect that. We're looking at fat content in a food or calories, carbohydrates, but a lot of times we avoid to really take a look at how much sodium is in food. I know I've been guilty of that myself, so just kind of something to focus on. So we'll go into, this is kind of what they call the Salty Six. The American Heart Association has put this together. I think it's a good picture of some of your saltiest foods and some of our favorite foods, like pizza is one of my favorite foods. So you look at one of them on the left here, breads. You think, well, bread, well, okay, if you're having 2 pieces of toast in the morning, let's say there's 120 milligrams per piece, all right? You got 2 pieces there, a sandwich at lunch, that's another 2 pieces, and then you're gonna have a piece for dinner. Well, you add that all up, that's a lot of sodium just in your bread alone. Another thing, I'm sure we're probably aware, cold cuts, your sausage, anything that you're putting on a sandwich, a lot of times that is very sodium heavy. You can purchase some less sodium pieces of processed meat. I would say tend to stay away from processed meat in general anyway, but there are some like lower sodium. If you have to pick one, go to the store, look at the nutrition label. Okay, this one has less sodium in it. Let's go ahead and buy this one. So then that moves you into sandwiches. You're combining the bread and the cold cuts on a sandwich, and then you also have whatever kind of dressing or toppings you're putting on that, and cheese, which also has a lot of sodium in it, all into one item. So you kind of think of a sandwich as not being that unhealthy, but really it has a ton of sodium in it 99% of the time. Pizza, same thing. We got the crust, the cheese, the sauce is going to have sodium in it, and then you're putting your pepperoni and your sausage, which have a ton of sodium in it, on top of the pizza. Canned soup is really, really bad. Most of those, you will see some of your, they'll advertise lower sodium on those, so kind of just take a look and see how much sodium is in those. But your typical can of soup is going to have a ton of sodium in it because it's preserving it, and they want to make it taste better because soups can be kind of bland, so they're making it taste better by adding salt. Another thing, chicken. Obviously, like here, this is a rotisserie chicken, so this is probably going to have some, it's been marinated or some injections of sodium. It's been dry rubbed with some sodium. But the other thing is, even just your plain chicken breast. You go to Walmart, Target, or anywhere you're going to buy your groceries, you get some chicken breast. Look at the package. There'll be sodium in that already, because a lot of times they might marinate it in something. They might put a little bit in it to preserve it. So next time you go to the grocery store, even just your plain chicken breast you're buying will have sodium in it. So kind of take a look at that when you're picking up things from the grocery store. So one of the favorite things in our household are chips. They're kind of hard I feel like it's one of the harder foods to kind of supplement with something else. So I say if you're going to eat it, because we know we're not going to avoid it, let's pick the healthier options of it. So one of the best ones here, these are the Terra chips, and these don't have any added sodium to them, so they only have 10 milligrams of sodium. And another thing you have to look at is, look at the serving size. So that's 1 ounce, which isn't very much, 17 chips, okay? And those are a little bit smaller chips. So, but that's a pretty good brand. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it has a lot of root vegetables that they just put into chip form, so it's a little healthier, and then the sodium's less. So another one, a favorite in our household, is the multi-grain Food Should Taste So Good chips. 80 milligrams of sodium. There's fiber in those. There's some flaxseed. So these are actually really, really good chips. I think if you're going to eat them, do this and do it in moderation, okay? Again, 10 chips already. How fast do we eat 10 chips, right? So just keep in mind the serving size once again. So lastly, in comparison, I feel like this is a good, road tripping thing you pick up at the gas station. I know I've done that before. These are loaded with sodium, okay? And it might say, oh, well, there's 31 chips, but these, we know how little Fritos are, right? They're tiny. 270 milligrams of sodium in the same serving size, so 1 ounce, okay? So just kind of be conscious of that. If you know you're gonna buy chips, if you're going between certain brands, just look at the back on the nutrition label, see how much sodium is in them. Another big thing is salad dressing. So we say, okay, I'm gonna eat well, I'm going to get my veggies in, I'm gonna have a salad. Well, guess what is loaded with sodium? Most of your pre-made salad dressings. So my remedy for that is make your own salad dressing. We don't buy salad dressing in our household. Years ago, yeah, I always bought it because it's convenient, it's fast, it's easy. I personally think the ones I make taste better, they're fresher. I actually like them better, so I won't buy a salad dressing from the store. There are some that you can pick up from the store that are a little healthier, but I still think just make your own. I think you can, kind of add what you want to it, make it taste to like the meal you're eating. You can kind of have a theme going throughout your meal, things like that. So I think a good kind of general recipe for salad dressing, okay? You have juice of any kind of citrus. So if it's a lime, an orange, or a lemon, chop it in half and squeeze that into a container. Then we're going to do any kind of vinegar. So I like the apple cider vinegar, the white balsamic vinegars, anything like a rice vinegar, anything like that you can mix together. So a teaspoon of that, 2 teaspoons of your olive oil. I actually really love avocado oil. It can be a little more expensive, but kind of just look for it for deals. That's a really great thing to put on your salad. This is just a fun fact too. I did not think that I liked raw kale, okay? I just thought it had a bitter taste, didn't taste good, I wouldn't eat it. Then I heard that you are supposed to, this may sound funny, but massage your kale with like an olive oil or an avocado oil. So you break off pieces of your kale, massage it, and what it's doing is it's breaking down the cellulose, so when you eat it, it doesn't taste as bitter. So it's actually giving it a really good flavor. And I challenge you guys to actually go home, do that, this weekend, make a dinner for your family, make a kale salad. Massage it for a while, taste it. If it still tastes bitter, keep massaging it. And it makes it taste so much better, I promise you. A good salad with a kale combination with kale, just avocado oil, white balsamic vinegar, and some grapes. It's an awesome salad, okay? And my husband, who loves cheeseburger and french fries, he eats this stuff, believe it or not. So anyway, and then you just add some cracked pepper. Try to stay away from the salt, adding extra salt to it if you can. But you can add other seasonings that don't have sodium in it. So like the Mrs. Dash, those kind of flavorings you can add in. Just try to stay away from the sodium. And when you do this, less than 5 milligrams of sodium. Right there. Okay, so I would bet if I took a poll in this room, everybody's favorite dressing, ranch, right? Am I right? So not only do we use this on salads, we might dip our pizza in it, which is already sodium ridden. So you look at this is just a typical ranch. I took this off, looked at the nutrition label. We have 310 milligrams of sodium in 2 tablespoons. So probably most people aren't eating 2 tablespoons, so you might as well double that, right? Okay, and if you're putting it on all kinds of other food, well, you're probably eating a half a cup of ranch dressing, okay? That's so much sodium. Not good for you. So honestly, go home, make a salad, make your own salad dressing. Email me and tell me how much you love it, because I know you will. You can email me for any type of other recipes that you want for that too. So, small changes we can all make to kind of change our nutrition. Everybody loves to eat. I love to eat. I don't believe in anybody starving themselves or these extreme diets. I don't believe in that. I say make subtle changes and you will slowly get to a better, healthier place of eating. This is things that I've learned over the course of the last 10 years where I've kind of taken nutrition more seriously and been a little healthier in my life. And it's made a big difference. So we have, the first thing you can make, I say, this may be too extreme. So we maybe not start by doing 3 times per week, but let's just start with, if you eat a lot of meat, let's try 1 day a week for dinner that you're not eating meat, okay? And then we can slowly move that to 3 times a week for dinner, you're not eating meat. I think a fun thing to do in a household, kind of make it a family theme, it'll be fun, are meatless Mondays. You've probably heard of this before. I think it's a good thing to do as a family. People look excited to themed nights, right? Meatless Mondays, you Google that on the internet for recipes. You'll get a ton of recipes. And we'll talk more about other things we can incorporate this, because a lot of people are like, oh, I couldn't go without meat, I eat it, da da da. And I used to think, because I was a big protein person, that I would still be hungry if I didn't eat enough meat. But really, if you get enough veggies and beans and some whole grains in your diet, you won't be hungry. You won't miss the meat, I promise you. So another thing that we may want to try to do is eating out. Typically, eating out is not good for you. You don't really know what they're putting in your food. If you cook it at home, you can control what's going in your food. You tend to eat more because it's like, oh, I paid for this, I got to finish it. And another thing aside from that is it costs more money. So I challenge you guys to cook at home as often as you can, and I would start by trying to eat out only 1 day a week. So making it an event, you still want to eat healthy when you go out to eat, but try to only do it 1 day a week. I know for coaches this is super hard. I know my husband has a really hard time with this when recruiting rolls around. You're in Las Vegas, jumping from gym to gym, and you pull into White Castle at 11:30 at night, okay? So, or Steak and Shake, which I know that he loves. So, try to avoid that. All right, so eating whole grains. We've all heard this over and over and over again. It's not just about eating wheat toast, because I know that's probably how most people, if that's the first step, if you're always eating white toast, fine. That's your first step, is to incorporate a wheat toast or a wheat bagel, whole grain bagel, something to that effect. That's great. I would challenge everyone to avoid white rice if you can, your white bread and your white noodles. So, substitute with whole grains. Some of these you may not have heard of before. I know I hadn't until I started kind of exploring different recipes, and they're amazing. So the first one is called farro, and it's like kind of a Mediterranean, based out of Italy, mulled wheat. So, and this may sound weird, but like you cook it just like you would cook rice. So it's not like an extreme preparation to do it. You don't have to soak it or anything like that ahead of time. You put it in a pot with water, boil it just like rice, okay? Adding this picture up here. So you've got some cranberries in there, some feta cheese, any type of grilled veggies. Throw that in a dish with some of those, the farro, or another thing is like quinoa. All of these dishes are pretty similar. They taste amazing. Again, my husband, who loves cheeseburgers, french fries, pizzas, fried chicken, tacos, anything like that he loves, he eats this stuff and he likes it better than that food. So a good thing that you can kind of put on these is, it's especially good with the couscous, which we have right here, is a lemon type of olive oil dressing with the couscous and some grilled veggies. Throw it in a bowl. It's super easy to make. Throw some veggies in the oven. You boil some quinoa or couscous or farro, and then make a little dressing with trying to avoid the sodium again, and you have an awesome dinner. I swear, it's very filling. A lot of times you'll have leftover to take for lunch. It's perfect. And then another thing we can try, if you're trying to maybe watch your carbohydrates a little, which isn't a bad thing, I would recommend doing some, getting one of the spiral tools to make zucchini noodles. So you just do that, cook them like that, spiral them out, and then you would add any type of topping like you would normally do. Like if you would make spaghetti, you would get any type of spaghetti sauce on that with those noodles, and it just makes it less carbs, less calories, less sodium. The other thing which I think is awesome, I just recently discovered this, if you want convenience, because you're like, well, I'm not gonna spiral zucchini noodles, that's too much. I agree, I haven't done that very many times, because it just takes too much time. This is a item by Green Giant. It is riced cauliflower, already prepared, frozen. You just heat it up, and you can replace that use that as a replacement for any dish that would have rice in it, and you're using a vegetable. You're getting extra vitamins and minerals. There's no sodium added to this. So I think that's a great way that I'm glad they've come out with these type of things, because you used to have to rice cauliflower on your own, and who has time for that? No, we don't. So kind of just different things you can try that maybe you haven't thought of before. So another thing we can talk about, drinking more water, which we all heard is good for you, right? I'm a big advocate of drinking water because not only, I mean, obviously, obvious things, we either work with athletes or we've been athletes at some point, it prevents dehydration, okay? So we've all, good start being athletes, I think we tend to drink more water in general, so that's great. It improves your digestion. If people are having problems with constipation, a lot of times it's because you're not drinking enough water. And another thing is, we don't buy juice, we don't buy pop in our household, we used to. We don't buy it anymore. And we just drink water as much as we can. So it's a good way to get those sugary drinks out of your household, replace it with water, low cal, low sugar. it's a good thing all around. So how do we implement more water intake into our diet? So I say we have Contigo, who generously donated all these water bottles to us, right? Use them, carry them around you all day with you all day long. I always have a water bottle with me. If you see me, my water bottle is never too far from reach. And so that's a great way to kind of make sure it's with you all the time. Another great thing about water is a lot of times I've noticed, I think I'm hungry, but I'm really just thirsty. So if you stay hydrated, you won't overeat. You're not gonna eat when you're actually not hungry. You're just really thirsty. So keep hydrated and you won't overeat. And then again, we talked about with just, this will take the place of any sugary drinks, juice, soda. So first thing I'm gonna hear is, I don't like water. I don't like the taste of it. I don't wanna do it, da da da. I'm a big person, I'm a water snob. There's only certain waters I like. I don't like tap water. One thing we've done in our household is we bought the big pitchers that get delivered to us every week, so we're not wasting so much bottled water. So we have that in our house that's always cooled, so you can do that. But my thing is, try to keep it cold. So add ice, freeze it. Some people will fill their water bottle up, freeze it in the morning, and then kind of drink it throughout the day, that type of thing. That makes it more palatable if it's cold, I think. Another thing is adding fruit to your water. So you can just chop up pieces of fruit, throw it in your water. Some people like the refreshing taste of cucumber even in your water, so I think that's great. Another thing that maybe you haven't heard of before that I recently started doing that I love is kind of essential oils, or kind of this thing that's everybody's kind of maybe heard of a little bit. There's edible essential oils from certain companies, and I put a couple drops of either lemon or grapefruit essential oils in my water, and it's amazing. It tastes fantastic. So just some things that kind of, if you don't like water, we can do that. So next we want to talk about getting active. Okay, we are all coaches or players or both, and I think that everyone should try to be a very good role model for your athletes, and that's by staying in shape yourself, okay? So a lot of people's number one excuse is, I don't have time for that. So I think everybody can set their alarm a half an hour to an hour earlier in the morning. We can turn off Netflix a little bit earlier in the evening, which I know is sometimes hard to do. Pry yourself away from that, third season finale show. So if we do these things, go to bed a little earlier, get up early, you can implement these things into your life. So other ways we can do this is, like I said, waking up earlier, making it part of your daily routine. Or if you're not a morning person, fine, that's great. I'm not a morning person either. We can make it as part of half your lunch hour, you go for a walk. Or after dinner, you go for a walk. Things like that. Just kind of make it routine, and it won't seem like such a chore to do it. Another thing that my husband and I like to do is plan active weekends. So we're gonna go explore a new city in the Northeast. We bring our bikes with. I'll bring my rollerblades and he'll run. Things like that, we'll kind of implement that into our weekend. We don't ever take a trip where we're driving without our bikes or our rollerblades or something like that. So kind of making it, make it a focus to make your weekend have something active in it, all right? Because we all do a lot of sitting during the day. You're either at work or you're studying or anything like that. You're sitting a lot. Americans tend to sit a lot because it's just part of how, our society is set up. So, okay, this is a big one for me. Make it something you enjoy. So for years, I was like, I have to run because it's hard and it makes me sweat and I'm hurting, so it has to be a good workout. I tried it for years. I trained and ran 3 half marathons. I hated every second of it. I didn't like it at all. So finally, I was like, well, what can I do that's cardio that I actually like? I didn't like running. If running's your thing, great, more power to you. It's just not mine. I switched to rollerblading, and people think it's goofy, but I love it. So it's just a more enjoyable workout. It gets my heart beating fast. It's a good cardio. So I say do things you enjoy. If you love the elliptical, if you love walking, whatever. Don't listen to what other people do. If everybody's doing Pilates or a Zumba class, do what you like to do. Just get moving. Another thing, so the time crunch. So I think this is a good thing because I tended to do this too, is, okay, if I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna do an hour. And it's like, you never just have that full hour to work out, right? break it up into small pieces throughout the day. If you can get up 15 minutes early, go for a walk really fast around your block, okay? 15 minutes there. Do 15, 20 minutes at lunch. After dinner, do 15, 20 minutes, half hour. All of that cumulatively adds up throughout the day, and there you go, you have an hour. So I say just don't think of it in such a big chunk. Break it up into smaller pieces if you're really, really busy and you don't have that full hour right at once. So there was a study recently done at Mayo Clinic, small study, but I thought it was really interesting. And it actually changed one of our daily routines in our household. If you walk for 33 minutes after any meal, at least 33 minutes, I know it's a weird time, but that's what it is. The people that did not walk after the meal, for somebody who did not have diabetes, so just a typical person without diabetes, their blood glucose was 114% higher after a meal than those that walked. If you had diabetes, it was 145% higher after a meal. So think about that. You're, over 100% higher blood sugar just because you weren't active after a meal. So a lot of times people think, oh, I gotta let my food settle. Walking is not gonna upset your stomach, I promise you. We do it all the time now. Make it part of, if you can't do it after every meal, do it after dinner. Because dinner, I know probably everyone in this room, I know in our household, dinner is a lot of times your biggest meal of the day, right? So, and what do most of us do after dinner? You might clean up your kitchen and then you go sit on the couch. I know that's what we did for years and years and years. It's not a good habit to get into, and I challenge you to at least go through. Anybody can fit, I think, a 35-minute walk right after dinner. If you have kids, bring your bikes with when it's nice out like it is. In these summer months, do it. Even in the winter, you can make it kind of an adventure. Go out in your snow boots. If it's snowing, it's exciting. Half hour. That's it. All right, so last thing. Lifestyle modification. We have stress, right? Coaching's stressful. Would we all agree with that? You have kids out there, young men and women out there, not doing what you're saying. You don't have control over how they're playing out there. It's super stressful. Jumping from job to job. At one point we have moved 6 times in 8 years is stressful, things like that. So how I like to do it is well, here we go. So this might look familiar. Coach Martin, right? Freaking out on the sideline. I think you've all probably had a moment like that or two, right, at some point. So the thing about stress is, I always say like, oh, I don't really get that stressed. I'm pretty calm, pretty even keel. Well, even if I think I feel that way, it's your body's natural physiological response to stress is to raise your blood pressure. So it's part of the fight or flight response. Something is stimulating you, exciting you, scaring you, stressing you out, your blood pressure goes up, okay? So whether you think you're somebody who handles stress well or not, it doesn't matter. Your body is still, at some point in time, your blood pressure is going up, okay? So this is why stress is hard on your heart. The other part of stress is that when we feel like things are out of control and you're stressed, you might pick up poor habits. So smoking, we all know smoking's bad for us. I won't get into that. You may start supplementing with drinking too much or overeating even. So stress can cause a lot of poor things, bad habits, stress, cumulative other effects that will be very, very bad for your health. So I know some of you are like, I'm never gonna do yoga. I love yoga, and I think everybody should just try it, okay? So one thing about yoga is joining a studio or going to a studio might be kind of intimidating, and it is expensive. So my thing is, maybe we could go to, if you want to go to the studio right away, most studios have like a free 2-week trial, or they'll have like a $30 for 2 weeks unlimited you can go. I kind of challenge you to go do that. I think it's a good way to get a taste of what yoga is all about. Because it's not just about flexibility and physical, it's also a lot about up here. And there's good mantras they have through every class, a different focus. So I would try to do that, is go to a free class or a discounted class. And another thing is they will have experts in there that can kind of guide you in how you're doing your moves. So I think it's good to kind of go to a class if you can. The other way, so let's say you did the classes, you loved them, but you can't afford the membership, okay? And this is also great for coaches. This is why yoga is awesome, and if you run too, anything like that, you can do that anywhere, but yoga you can do in any hotel room at any time of day, anywhere you are, right? So I like some of these free apps these are some of the favorite ones: Pocket Yoga, Yoga Daily, Down Dog. They're free apps that you can download and do yoga anywhere you are. You just bring it up on your phone and a little instructor will talk you through each move. So it's great to do that. Another thing is YouTube videos. I'm sure as coaches, we've all YouTubed something about basketball instruction. Same thing with yoga, okay? So the other thing that yoga kind of coincides with is mindfulness, which I think is becoming more popular in coaching. I think we're starting to implement this, see this a lot more. They're using it in the pros, the college level. So what is mindfulness? What I like to think of how you start with mindfulness, and this is for when this is in yoga, it's the hardest part for me. Corpse pose, which is just lying on the ground, is where you're kind of doing your mindfulness. Easiest pose physically, hardest pose mentally for me. I can't quiet my mind, I'm hyper, I can't, and I think coaches, like in general, are very like hyper, intense people, so it's good to try to implement this into your life, and it's not easy, but it's a great thing. So some of the apps that we have for this are Calm, Insight, Timer, and Aura. These are all free apps that have great ones on them. Aura has a new meditation each day. So you're not going to have repeated things. So that's kind of a great thing about that. Calm is really good. They have all these different calming musics you can listen to. Do it before you go to bed if you want to, or do it over your lunch. I would start with just trying to do like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just to sit and calm your mind, be in the present, and center yourself. So this is something I recently discovered, even though it's been around for a while. So I'm kind of embarrassed to say that, but all right. So if any of you have an iPhone, which probably a lot of you do, there's this little icon on your phone that comes with your phone, okay? That heart icon. You click on that. Right now, if you click on that, it'll show your steps that you've taken today. You can go back in the calendar and it'll show all the steps you've taken throughout the month. So even though you didn't turn it on or weren't really looking at it, it tracks your steps, which is awesome. So the great thing about this is they have all these different things on here. If you pull this up, it has activity, mindfulness, nutrition, and sleep. And what it can do is link all of your apps. So if you have like a Nike running app or a mindfulness app like the Calm, or a sleep app that you're tracking how much sleep you're getting at night, it'll put all of this data into one thing, and it's already on your phone. You don't have to pay for it, it's already there. So take a look at that. I think it's awesome. Freddie and I always look at it, we're like, okay, how many steps did you have today? And it'll be different for the both of us because you have to put your height in, so it'll kind of measure it based on your height. So if you have it right now, it may just be doing like to an average size person, probably 5'6", I think, something like that, or for a woman, and whatever it is for a man. But once you put it in, it'll be more accurate to your height. But yeah, it's just kind of a fun thing to keep track of. It's already on your phone. You don't have to do the other, Fitbit bands that other people do. And it's like, this is like whole health, right? You have your activity, your mindfulness, your nutrition, your sleep. If you have any type of nutrition app where you're putting in all of your foods and things like that, it'll also monitor it on there. So that's all I have for you guys today. I love to cook healthy things. I have a lot of different vegetarian meals that I have come up with that I am happy to email anybody that's looking to try to get more vegetarian meals worked into their diet. I promise you'll like it. Different ways of working activity in. I'm not an expert on yoga. I practice often, but I can get you answers on anything that has to do with that. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me anytime at that email address. I'll have my card sitting out here when you guys exit. You guys can take that with you. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? All right, we're all set.